So, about this title, about 1972, there was a movie called Dr. Strangelove, and it was about the extant threat of being vaporized in a nuclear exchange. So that was about 50, 60 years ago, and it still is a threat. But today, the new existential threat is AI, because it is sucking up resources, it is destroying water, it is causing your electrical bills to rise. And basically, it's lying to you a lot. So, and it's led by a bunch of tech bros you can't really trust. But me, I joined EarthScope, and my background is all the stuff on top of the ground, but EarthScope's all the stuff on bottom of the ground. I don't know anything about stuff on the bottom of the ground. Yeah, I know remote sensing, I know mapping, all that good stuff. So, did what any grad student would do, is I was gonna read a whole bunch of papers. But I decided to use AI to do a search using DuckDuckGo, to pull down journal articles. And these are articles that you have to subscribe to. You paid as a member. And I got like about 200 articles. I was no way gonna read 200 articles, especially over a weekend, because I was trying to figure this stuff out really fast. So I had these pile of articles. What was I gonna do? First, I needed to sort through them, typical data reduction type step. So I wrote a little program to basically say, hey, does this actually fit the things I'm interested in, which is about machine learning, cloud stuff, and also seismic and geodetic data. So I wrote this program, it sorted it down, boiled it down to about 100 articles, but I still needed to shrink that down because 100 articles is way too much to go through. So I needed a shrink ray. I needed to build a shrink ray to go reduce this, more data reduction, because that's what you do as a grad student. Well, I needed help, so I got an agent. I got Agent Smith. Agent Smith is basically a prompt that's really super smart, that it can follow reasoning steps and be able to tell me things about those and summarize those things about those articles. I needed 2 agents, actually, so I built what's called an agent swarm, multiple Agent Smiths. So 1 to summarize everything, and 2 to explain the stuff I didn't really understand, because the processes, though similar in Earth stuff, is very, a little bit different from what I was used to. So it would put out this type of information about different articles, again, analyzing the workflow and giving me a summary overall. Still, I cannot read all this stuff in one going. So I built what's known as Retrieval Augmented Generation, which is a system where I took all that data, all the documents, ran it through a model called a embedding model. It turned all that stuff into numbers and stuck it into a database known as a vector database. So basically, this whole process is called indexing, so it breaks up all the text into chunks. I used a Hugging Face embedding model, ran it through there, and then I sent it to the vector store, which is in DuckDB. This typical nerd stuff here. Well, so the really important part about the embedding models is basically it takes your words, turns it into a vector, it runs it through another model that says the positions of all these words follow this way, and all these words are gonna be following the way it goes through. So it basically creates these vectors. And the way it searches through them is 2 ways. Hierarchical navigable small worlds, which is actually a pretty complex way of doing a graph theory to find the data. The red spot is what you're asking for, the blue spot is what's closest. The other one's an inverted file index, which is basically a k-means cluster. Find that. But I also need to use multiple LLMs. So there is a product called Ollama that lets me run all this stuff on my laptop, or on my gaming PC, to run all this stuff. So this is what I wanted to know about. I wanted to know about all these studies that are using cloud-based seismic geodetic data. I wanted to tell me all about machine learning that's being used, and write it in terms of an early career professional in a form of a long essay. So what I did was I wrote some code. The code talks to the database of queries, runs the queries, and takes those embeddings, which are all vectors, takes that question I had, puts it all together in what's called a context, sends it to these multiple LLMs, and then produce this. So a big line of text, but basically it's a long form essay that I could digest, just sitting there reading and going through coffee. So, it's a lot, but it's really interesting that, I could summarize all this, I would have things. So out of all this, it was great because it's mostly open source, didn't cost me anything except a weekend. I had complete control of this input data, including all these journal articles. I have control of my information plus those journal articles that I did not want to send to a major LLM. So, to quote Andor, I can use the tools of my enemies to defeat them, okay? And build a better world.